Prepare to be astonished.
And on that note, Vic, we bring you this week's installment of the Marty Monologue.
Whenever I hear the choir, it makes me feel guilty. Maybe I should put my pants on.
You might want to do that, Vic. You know the neighbors are looking. We'll be speaking with Marty Wombacher of MeanwhileBackInPeoria.com with his weekly segment. Marty, how are you, brother?
Good. How you guys doing?
Man, we are having a freaking ball as usual, man.
I've been listening. It's been a good show tonight.
Well, hey, thank you, man. We appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, as always, I got my homeboy riding with me, Vic Nasty.
Hey, Vic, how's it going?
Marty, how's the hammer hanging?
Everything's going good. I just opened up a beer, so all is well in my world for now.
Hey, loosening up.
Yeah. Okay, right, you all ready for me to go?
I was going to say, last week we talked to you about ketchup. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, I got a whole new subject lined up here. Kind of something I thought people might get into. I know you probably got a lot of bloggers out there that listen to you. And the title of this week's monologue is Blogging 101. And I want to kind of talk about how I got into blogging and kind of how I found my voice on the Internet, because it wasn't an easy ride. And interestingly enough, I got on the Internet due to a book that I had written and published called With a Boy Who Would Be a Fire Truck. And that's a collection of short stories that I'd written back in 2008. And I wrote it. A friend of mine, Joe Friedman, he helped me publish it. He designed it. And it came out. I'm still real proud of it. I spent a year working on it. It's, like I say, a collection of short stories. Some of those I'll probably be telling on these Marty monologues. But anyway, I was showing it to a friend of mine, and he's like, this is great, but why aren't you on the Internet? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, everybody's blogging. What are you doing in print? And other people had said that to me for like a couple of years before that, because the Internet and blogging was getting bigger and bigger, and I had resisted it. Because, nobody likes change, and I was so embedded in the world of print. I mean, I published 2 magazines through the years. I moved out to New York. I was doing freelance writing. I wrote for newspapers, for magazines, and it was just my whole world, and I knew it inside and out. I mean, I even knew how to, do page layout. I knew the production end. I just knew print, and I knew nothing about the Internet except to go onto it and jerk off the Internet porn. I was an expert at... I was an expert at that. I still am, but that's all I knew. And I thought, and then I did start looking into it, and I'm like, you know what? These people are right. I need to learn how to do this. So I started looking into it, and I am a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my projects, and that I always want them to be really professional. So I didn't just want to go onto one of these goofy free blogging sites where they all look the same. And I found a host that you had to pay a little bit for, but you could make your own design and layout. And I kind of learned how to do it. So once I learned kind of how to do it and I put together templates and stuff, I had to figure out an idea for my first blog, which was an abysmal failure. It really didn't work at all. It was called The Marty Wombacher Show. And you can still see it. It's still up. And my idea for it was, and my mistake that I learned from, and others ought to learn by this too if you're listening and you're thinking about doing a blog, I went into it with a magazine mind. I always, I did 2 different magazines, People of Peoria and Fish Wrap. And with magazines, you have 3 sections to them. There's the beginning and end sections that have columns, reviews, things that are ongoing with every issue. They're kind of the same. Then in the middle, you have a feature well with feature articles, longer articles, photo spreads, stuff that's different with every issue. Well, the Marty Wombacher Show, I kind of set up like that. When you would go to the blog, there was a static front page that didn't really change, and that was a big mistake. People want to see something new every day right away. But you had this thing that was static. Then there were all these links and buttons that you had to press to go to different things. And I was a maniac doing this. I was writing new stories. I had the Daily Post, which was a new story, the Daily Photograph, which was a photo I would take. I had a section that made fun of magazines. I had a section lampooning print ads. There was just all this fucking shit going on. And I thought it would be great. And when I first debuted it, I've got a mailing list of hundreds of people. So I sent out to my mailing list with a link saying, check this out. So it went up in May of 2009. And the first day it went up, because I sent out this thing with a clickable link, so everyone's going to look at it, I got thousands of hits. And I'm like, wow, right out of the gate, this thing is going to be a smash. Well, then the next day I put everything up, and I got half the hits. Then the following day I got like a quarter of those. Eventually what it boiled down to, I was getting like 15 to 20 hits a day. And that was it. I had a real small audience. I tried everything under the sun to get an audience, and it just wasn't working. And what people kept saying to me was, and I believe one of the lessons I learned doing this is when people complain about something enough, you need to listen to those complaints and realize you're fucking up somehow. Because your first reaction is, well, fuck you, you just don't get it. You don't know what I'm doing. That's what the immediate reaction. But when you have, that's okay with one person. But if 50 people tell you this is too confusing, I don't know how to find the new stuff, and those were the complaints I was getting. I'm like, all right, I need to dump this format and find like a singular one. This is where I really learned how to blog. And one thing that I had on there was called Photoblog. And it's where I would just go somewhere. I was living in New York at the time. I would just go somewhere and take a bunch of photos and put them up with captions, kind of like what I'm doing now. And like I went to the Joey Ramone birthday party, took photos there and put up captions. Tons of people looked at that. I went to Central Park one day, just took photos. So I thought this needs to be my next blog. But I thought I need to find like somewhere to go, and I wanted to go to the same kind of place every day. But I thought, how do you do that without being repetitive and it gets boring? But I was in New York, and I thought, the one place you could go that would be kind of different is a bar. And there's thousands of bars in Manhattan alone. You throw in Brooklyn and Queens and all the outer boroughs, there's tons of them. So I'm like, wow, what about going to a bar every night? I was working a second shift job, so I had no problem with that. And then I thought of an even better idea. I'm like, what if I to make it have a little bit of a hook, what if I go to a bar every night for a year and document it? I'd have to have the rules were I had to have a couple drinks, I have to be there for at least an hour, and take a bunch of photos. And I thought, that's the idea. That's what I'm going to do. And I was kind of hoping I'd get a book deal out of it. So anyway, then I had to think of a title for it. And my first title, the working title, was A Guy Walks Into a Bar.com. Well, of course, if you've ever tried to register an internet name for a blog or website, they're all taken. That was gone. And I'm like, fuck. And then I thought a little more. I'm like, hey, I thought, what's even better is A Guy Walks Into 365bars.com. Nobody had that. So it was like, boom, I registered it and I got it. And so then I started messing around with the design, and my idea was to do just that, was to go to a bar every single night. I did, though, before I started it, I was kind of hesitant because I was going to send out another email. I knew in the beginning hundreds of people would be looking at this thing. And I thought, once you start this thing, there's no stopping it for a year. Because if I missed a night, I'd have to start it all over. And it was exciting, but it was also kind of scary all at the same time. And the first week I was going to go out on a Sunday, and I started drinking beer before I did it. I just ended up getting smashed at home, and I didn't do it. I mean, I didn't have a day where I was going to tell anybody I was was just going to start it and then tell people. Right. So the next Sunday, a couple more beers. I thought, you know what? If you don't fucking do it tonight, you're never going to do it. It was January 10th, 2010. And I went out that night. I went to a place called Otto's Shrunken Head. It was a punk rock tiki bar on 14th Street in the East Village of Manhattan. And I went there, and this is where tonight's monologue is going to kind of end off, because next week I want to talk more about the 365 Bars blog. But sure. And I wanted to ask you guys, too, about this, if you have the same feeling, because it never ends with me. I remember going to Otto's and standing there in front of it with my camera, and I had, like, the worst stage fright you can imagine. I was really fucking nervous, because I thought, I'd never done it, and, it's different than like just sitting home writing a blog or writing a story. You got to go in and you got to interact with people, not only people, but with strangers you don't know in New York City. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know how this is going to go. What are people going to say? You're an asshole, which I'm used to anyway. But it's funny, that feeling, I've learned to deal with it. But I was thinking about, last night I was kind of thinking about the monologue. I thought, well, I'll talk about blogging for a little bit and the adventures I've had. But even like last night, tomorrow's blog is I went to Knuckles Pizza out in Dunlap. And it hit me that like every time before I go in somewhere, I stand in front of the building for like 2 or 3 minutes and I'm really fucking nervous because you never know how it's going to go. Trying to gather myself, and I'm kind of a different person when I go into a place. You kind of have to be on, kind of like when I do your show. It's like when I hang up the phone, I'm kind of a different guy because, you're on and you're trying to, be out there, and it's a weird feeling, like you get butterflies in your stomach. It's like stage fright because it's either going to go, huh?
I was just going to say I experience the same thing every week, leading up to the show. We're talking to folks that we've really never talked with before, and boy, I get those butterflies, and
bubble guts.
Bubble guts.
That's what I get every week is the damn bubble guts.
No, me too, but I have learned that you just then got to walk through the door, and then it's just it takes on a life of its own. But it took me the first month of doing that bar blog. I would go to some bar after work, and for some nights I would kind of feel sick. And I did learn that, you're going to have that feeling, but once you walk in the door and you turn it on, it's either going to go really good, which 90% of the time it did, or sometimes it'll go really bad, and even then, that makes for a good blog.
That's right.
So that's kind of, I feel like I really earned my boots, or whatever you want to call it, where I really paid my dues with doing the 365 Bars blog. It really kind of taught me. I heard you earlier, talking about my blog and doing it from the street level and that. Well, a lot of people, most people when they do blogs, if they go somewhere, they don't tell people in the store that they're doing anything, and they don't interact with people because it's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
And I feel that kind of separates me in what I'm doing, but I really learned how to do that with the bar blog. It was like a year-long exercise of learning how to go into a place, kind of somewhat take it over, talk to people, kid around. It's a fine line between kidding around and being obnoxious. You really got to watch it, and sometimes I do cross the line. But next week I want to talk more about the 365 Bars blog, but that's kind of how I got into blogging and kind of the rules that I learned while doing it. So that is my monologue for the week, gentlemen.
Excellent, Marty. Well, as always entertaining and informative. And for Vic Nasty and myself, you're welcome, man. We just want to say thank you, brother, for taking the time to join the show tonight.
Hey, it's always my pleasure. Love hanging out with you guys.
And every time Marty comes on, you better
prepare to be astonished.
That's right.
All right, guys.
Well, Vic Nasty, I want to throw it over to you. You got any last words?
Hey, Marty, I enjoy reading the blog. Just keep out there on it and keep us all entertained, man.
Hey, thank you. That's why I'm doing it. I always love to hear that.
Right on, Marty. You take care, my man, and you have yourself a good evening.
All right, you too. You guys too. I'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Peace out, homeboy. Thanks again.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Later. Mr. Marty Wombacher and the Marty Monologues. Kind of like the Vagina Monologues, but with a real dick.
A real dick as opposed to a fake dick.
Well, maybe it's not in reference to a sexual organ, Vic. Maybe it's in reference to a personality.
Oh, okay.
You weren't buying that one, huh?
No, I just thought it was a dick, not a dick. I just thought it was a dick, like, dick, but maybe not. Shit, I don't know.
Oh, goodness, my man. Well, hey, just something that I ran across as I was scrolling through Facebook here, but before I get to that, the Marty Monologues, there we go. Every Sunday night here at 9:30 on the Big Perm Show, Marty Wombacher of MeanwhileBackInPeoria.com, he joins us to give his perspective and his insight on whatever is floating through Marty's brain at the time we call him.